Well, just for something to do. That camera, I got a new SD card today because the sound, I thought might be that, but it isn't. The sound's it's not in what you call it, it's not in time, right? And I thought it might be the card, and it isn't. Anyway, well, one of me old banger mates, I've been, you've seen me riding around with at Field Bangers. He put up today quite a good topic, I thought. And he said, "What car did you learn driving?" Which means, it can be anything, can't it? This can be. So, how do you learn to drive? And several have put up what they learnt to drive and so on. Well, what I did, when I was 7, my father took me across a farm track in our 1936 Hillman Minx. And he got me to drive it, which was good. So I put it in first gear and second gear across this farm track. And that was my first driving I did when I was 7. And that one of the best things he's done to me, right? For me, I should say. Then, when I was 16, I got a motorbike. Oh, sorry, something before that. Right, then he got me to move a tractor in the yard a year or 2 later. And then when I was 9, I went down to the farm that I've shown a video of fairly recently. And I think you'll see on it that, so I started driving tractors when I was 9. And what it was a tractor similar to mine, that I sold last year. And you drive in between the heaps of bales, because when it was small bales, they were in heaps, and you had to drive in between them and lift them onto a trailer. Well, the farmer got a pony for his daughter, and Dad went to shoe it, and he said, do I want to go down and be friends with his lad? And I've shown him where it is, it's just just a farm on its own. And so I did that. Well, he got George to drive between the heaps, right? And I was riding on the tractor with him, you see. And George upped the clutch bit. Poor old Dad nearly fell off the blooming trailer. So he chucked him off. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, he said, "Oh, do you want another go?" And George said to me quite calmly, he said, "Oh, would you like a go?" And I said, "Yeah, right." So anyway, I did it, and I did all right. And that's how I started driving. So I started driving tractors. And the next harvest, I think it was, me and George did the baling, and that carried on for a long time, right? I've mentioned it in other videos. So I actually learnt to drive on tractors, I suppose, you could say. Well, when I was 17, Dad took me out in our car, which was an A40 Devon, right? An Austin A40 Devon by this time. And I had a short drive in that, and then, and this is the bit where I probably did learn to drive. I was at college, and I've mentioned this recently, 140 miles away at Tame near Oxford, back to Ulfby near Alford, right? And he came to fetch me, put L plates on the car, and said, "Right, you're driving home." And I think that's actually how I learnt to drive. Well, I had a motorbike, and I was going to 12 miles on it, and working as an agricultural engineer. The one reason I didn't take my test early is because you were sent out to farms, and it was a bit stressful. It was hard work, right? It was very clever work and hard work. You got the farmer breathing down your neck at harvest time with the baler not tying. You got to do it, and it was vastly underpaid, vastly. Prime Minister's wage wouldn't have been enough, to be honest. Anyway, that was one of the reasons I didn't bother. The other one was I had to have a motorbike for cheap transport for a year or 2, and I had a 250, and then, not now, but then you could drive a 250 as long as you wanted on a provisional licence, which I did. Anyway, I was about 19 and a half, I think, and Dad said, "Oh, isn't it about time you took your test?" So I put in for my motorbike test and failed the first and passed the second. Then I put in for my car test, and I went in the Devon, right? Well, The funny thing is, I got the same examiner that I'd had from my Mortwhite test. Sorry about that. I was having a moment, wasn't I? And who passed me on my Mortwhite test. So I thought, oh, we'll be all right here. Well, we weren't all right here at all. By a long way. And he failed me, so which was all right. Well, then I got another test about 6 weeks later, and my firm let a friend go with me to take it. I had to go from Horncastle to Skegness, and a friend went with me, as I say, and I got a nondescript driving instructor. I can't remember. Anyway, the second one, it was a perfect test, right? I didn't do anything wrong at all. And he asked me, 5, 6, 7 really difficult questions. Sorry, you've not reached the required standard. Oh, well, I can't drive better than this, right? That's it. So I didn't put in for it. When I got home for a week, I was pretty, despondent about it. I didn't think I'd ever pass. Anyway, Dad said, well, you'll have to put in for it again. I did. Well, I got it through within 3 weeks, and you cannot take a test. It had to be 4 weeks, right? So if you took a test on the Monday, it had to be 4 weeks to the next Monday before you could take another one. And I got it through 3 weeks. Anyway, I went for it, and it was the blooming snide tax inspector driving examiner that fails everyone, right? So I drove around it, and it was nowhere near as good as the one I'd done, last one. So I just drove around, and he asked me a simple question. So I'm pleased to say you passed. And I said, oh, it's not as good as the last one. Don't you want to pass? Yes, thanks. And I snatched the certificate, and off we went, like my pass certificate. So that's how I passed my driving test, and that's the story of learning to drive.